Hello.
Everybody, welcome to Purple Elephant Deb H's channel. I'm
Yes.
TarotStache.
Yes, you
Please
are.
like and subscribe.
Why, thank you.
You're welcome.
How are you
Thank you
today?
for. I am well. I am glad to be here with you. Glad to be here with you.
I'm glad you're here. It's
Well,
it's
thank
nice.
you.
I've missed being on and chatting with. I especially miss chatting with you because we always have
Aw.
fun.
We do have fun. Why do you think that is?
I
Seriously,
think
what is
that's
it?
because we have. I think we have similar personalities as far as the things we find entertaining.
Okay. So in other words, we are exceptionally gifted at finding humor in things.
And witty too.
We are witty. Yes, I think we are. My goodness.
The notification dropped. So
Mm-hmm.
um, we have Heather is here. Hi, Heather.
Hello, Heather.
It's lovely to have you join us. She said hi to me and hi to you, and that she can't stay, but she wanted us to have a wonderful show. Judy
Mm-hmm.
B is here. Hello,
Hi,
Judy.
Judy B.
TarotStache is here.
I thought you banned him from your channel.
Lady Silver is here.
Hi, Lady Silver 1111. Hi.
And it's lovely to see everyone today. So, I'm having some construction going on outside my door. Gerald says he can't hear it, but if you
I
can hear it
cannot
in
hear it.
chat, let me know.
Mm-hmm.
I won't be able to do
Hi,
anything
Evangelina.
about it, but at least we'll try to work around it.
There you go.
Evangelina Ladnivsky,
Oh,
did I
that sounds
say
pretty good.
that right? Evangelina is here, and Dippity Doo. Hello,
Hi,
Dippity
Dippity
Doo.
Doo.
And her name is Heather as well.
Oh, wow. And I saw Aspasia Rising. Beth is here.
Is she? Where is she? There she is.
Hello, Beth.
Hi, Beth.
So, wow.
Oh, well, we're having kind of an informal chat today. We thought we might continue our discussion of the veil.
Mm-hmm. It was a good
It's recently
conversation,
come,
especially. Yeah, it was a good conversation, especially for the time of the year.
yes,
So
it
it was
it
good.
fit the time of the year, and truly, it's a time a topic that we could discuss any time of year because of
Mm-hmm.
the point I'm about to make. Um, oh, good, Ladinivsky. That's
There you
Evangelina
go.
says that is how to say her name. So
Perfect.
lovely to have you with us. So I was
Mm-hmm.
watching Sterling's show a couple weeks ago, and a question was asked about the veil, about whether or not the veil is real, and
Mm-hmm.
whether or not it's thinning. And all he said about it was that it's not real; it's a human construct. And then he went on. So because it's not real, it's not thinning. That's what he said.
Okay.
So, um, do we need a representation between the physical plane and the spirit plane? Do you think it's helpful to have a representation of that divide?
Yes, I think we do because it's a way for us to, and when I say us, it's a way for me as a human being to understand something that isn't necessarily a human experience.
Yes. In order for us to kind of wrap our physical brain around it,
Mm-hmm.
it's helpful for us to have some kind of example or metaphor to liken it to.
I agree. And we use metaphors in many aspects of our lives because art, music, dance are many times about metaphors, and that's because these are things that are we have difficulty expressing them in a way that conveys the emotional or the energetic response to them. And I
Yes.
think that's, yeah, it's a challenge. And that's why there are some people who are really beautifully skilled with language or music, art. It
Mhm.
just transports us and allows me to experience something that I've not experienced before or that's beyond description.
Or to think about it in a different way. To
Yes, well said.
to have like a hanged man kind of experience where we
Hmm.
look at it maybe from the
Yes.
opposite way. I was thinking too that it's a way to express something that's very difficult to put into words.
Yes. Hmm.
That our experiences of, now I can see apparitions sometimes. I
Hmm.
normally see in my mind's eye rather than
Yes.
physically in front of me, although sometimes I can see physically in front of me
Hmm.
something that isn't physically there. So I
Uh-huh.
think that it's a good way to express that usually that isn't a real clear picture.
Hmm.
That a
Yes.
lot of people who experience that don't see something clear, or that it seems like it's veiled or masked in some way.
Hmm.
So I think that that's a way of expressing that as well. Um,
Yes.
I, I
Yes.
honestly believe that the veil, what we think of as the veil, was invented by scam artists to take people's money because it was a
Okay.
way of presenting something that they said was from the other side, but was really part of their scam, was to cover it in a veil.
Yes. And so I think you are, correct me if I'm wrong, you're referring to the spiritualists who were not truthful. And I'm saying it that
Yes,
way because some of the spiritualists were
were
actually and
actually
are,
truthful. Yes,
yes,
yes.
and being able to convey that. So scam artists, yeah, I understand that. And I also think the veil, it adds a mystery about things.
A mystery. And Gerald, have you ever seen The Ghost of Mr. Chicken?
No, I have not.
It's an old Don
Surprise.
Knotts film. It's an
Okay.
old Don Knotts film. And in this film, he stumbles onto uh, a haunted house, a supposedly haunted house.
Hmm.
And in this little town, and we're talking about late 50s, early 60s, middle America, there is the well-to-do women in the house or in the show don't have a whole lot to do, so that they have formed this spiritualist movement group.
Okay. All right.
And so I when I think of the less than honest people who are promoting their brand of spiritualism to make money, that's the sort of person that they would take advantage of, is
Yes.
these women who were open to new experiences and things beyond, but who were a little bit gullible.
Hmm.
So I'm in my mind, I'm picturing that sort of demographic is who they targeted with this language.
Yes.
But they took that term and made it actually mean something.
Mm-hmm.
That it would represent what feels like a barrier between our world and
Mm-hmm.
the spiritual world.
Yes. Yes. Well, and I think Evangelina said our illusion about the separation is impressive. Drives us to search for metaphors and labels.
That's absolutely true.
And to be honest with you, I don't. If the veil doesn't exist, and we believe it does, I don't know if there is a challenge with that. If there's, I don't.
I
I
don't.
think it's okay.
I do too, and I also think that it's whatever we make our own reality. So if in my mind, if it's a real thing, it represents a real thing, whether or not
Yes.
it itself is a real thing. It represents
Mm-hmm.
something that's real.
Yeah, people who lost sons and other loved ones in World War I were very susceptible to that. Of course they
Yes,
were.
they were. They were. And if you think about whenever there has been a time where people were grieving en masse, a large percent of the population was grieving, that's when the people who are more dishonest come out and kind of try to prey on that they try to take advantage of someone
Yes.
who's vulnerable.
Mm-hmm. Yes, because I don't know about you, but hi Sherry. I don't know about you, but when I am in grief or I'm in pain, I am struggling, I don't oftentimes make decisions that are well grounded.
I don't either.
So, and that I think is when people can take advantage, like you said.
They can. And
So,
I worked for a time at a cemetery, and I've seen people try to take advantage
mm-hmm.
when someone was vulnerable. And
Yes.
I think that it's I think what goes around comes around. and
I would
if
agree
you
with you.
if you are that of that nature to take advantage of someone when they are so defeated, then there may be something waiting for you. But that's a different conversation.
It is a different conversation, but I think, and I also think, um, the idea of the veil, if it does exist, we've come up with this construct to be able to understand it and to be able to approach it.
Yeah.
And so I personally, I like the idea that it's called a veil, because what a veil does is it slightly shields and it makes it foggy. And
Yes.
it's not a wall per se,
No.
because a wall metaphor would be impenetrable.
Yes. Or
And
at least
so,
more difficult to
yes,
navigate. That there would need to
yes.
either be a gate or a way over. I was
Hmm.
thinking too that what you said about not meant to really obstruct, just to sort of blur maybe,
Hmm.
is that traditionally veils have been worn if you're in mourning or
Yes.
if you're about to be married. So the times when you wouldn't want to completely obstruct your identity, but you might not want your face shown. in
Yes.
its entirety, so that
Hmm.
a grieving person could weep without feeling self-conscious. Not that if you are that deep into grief, you don't really care whether anybody sees you in that condition if you're
Yes.
that deep into it. But if you are trying to function, then you may not, you nowadays we'd wear sunglasses
Yeah.
or
Well, and I think that's part of the cultural structures that we've put around things with grieving, in particular, and we don't oftentimes have a physical representation that someone is grieving. You would wear, they would wear black bands when somebody had that they knew died, wearing a black veil. There would be some sort of nonverbal, or there would be some representation to let people know this is what's
exactly,
going on with me. And if,
exactly.
yeah, and so if I'm behind somebody in the grocery store and they're crying, I don't know why they're crying.
No,
Um, but if I see them wearing one of those symbols of grieving, it gives me the ability to adjust me and how I interact with.
exactly.
So,
And it's really actually more acceptable to be crying in public than it is to be laughing. He will carry you off to the cracker factory if you sit on the
yeah.
bus and laugh for an hour. But if you sit on the bus and cry for an hour, no one will bother you.
Mm. Well, I'm not on that bus because a lot of times I would look at somebody and going, "Here's a tissue. Is there anything you need?" And
Yes.
Brene Brown talks about in I'm listening to her new book, Atlas of the Heart, and she talks about it's a beautiful way of understanding what emotions are and how
Yes.
and um, we don't know what people's grief is, and it's so powerful that when we allow someone to have some space and we meet them where they are, isn't that the beauty of being human and interacting with people? I don't.
Absolutely.
So, what
Absolutely.
did Beth
Beth
say?
has Beth has said people that take advantage of the vulnerable basically railroad spirituality for profit. True. That's
Yes.
very true. She, in her opinion, the veil exists. Evangelina has said that um, she sees the veil as portals between dimensions. And I would say that that's kind of how we use the veil in the physical too, because if we're wearing a veil for mourning, that's traversing that dimension from one dimension to
Hmm.
the other. A bride would wear a veil in the same way, stepping through the portal from going from traditionally the home where they were raised to the home that they're making with their husband.
It's I love the idea of it being a portal. Hi, Gertrude. I just emailed you this morning.
Lovely to have you
Um,
here, Gertrude.
yeah,
Thank you.
Gertrude. I like the idea of a portal, and I will be very clear, and I will say I believe the veil exists.
Mhm.
I
I
also
do too.
believe that my experience with the veil has evolved over the years because
Yeah,
I have changed. Notice I didn't say I have evolved. I've changed. um, but I love the idea of it helps me because my word of the year this year was intention. And if I set an intention that, um, okay, let me use a very simple experience. When I go into my car and I unlock the door and I open the door and I sit down in my seat, I've just stepped through a portal. And in my
yeah,
mind, I'm going to be driving. So I'm putting on my driving awareness. I don't know
Yeah,
about you, but I cannot drive a car without a seatbelt on.
I can't
It,
either.
I even if I'm backing the car up in the driveway, I can't do it because I don't feel secure. Almost as though the survivors. Mhm.
Symbolically with the veils, they do. I Like I said, I worked in that business for some time, and also that I have experienced grief in a profound way. And it is like doing that. It's like symbolically stepping through a portal. You
Mhm.
aren't the same person anymore.
No, no.
You were changed. Every time you experience something life changing in your life, whether it's the passing of a loved one, a marriage, a divorce, uh, the birth
M-
of a new family
moving
member.
homes, graduating, changing jobs. There's so many different times when things change.
And when things change, they change each of us. We may not know how they change us right away. It may take some
Mhm.
time for that change to
Yes,
manifest itself.
yes. Well, and there are in some, okay, a part of you dies with the departed, a part of you is reborn. That is well said, Beth. That's well
Yes,
said.
that's
There are
absolutely
some
true.
spiritual practices, and I've been doing some reading on different goddesses and different ways to work with deity.
Hmm.
And I do not remember the specific name of the goddess, Bad Gerald, but one of the ways to honor and to work with is just to actually veil yourself, because what that
Hmm.
does is it allows you to be separated from the world around you, and it also gives you the ability to be less aware of your physical being, and it allows your different senses to wake up. So,
And it shows humility that
mhm,
you are in a humble position
yes, yes.
as you approach.
Mhm. And that's an interesting thing. Maybe what you're telling me is with some of the deity with that I'm working with, perhaps a veiling would be a good way for me to feel connected with. And I
Yes.
like that it's it's an important thing to um, sometimes our experiences. I'll own this. Sometimes my experiences are more profound when I'm using some of the senses that are not as strong as others. I'm a very visual
Yes.
person. And if I close my eyes and I listen, then I'm bringing a different energy into that experience. I'm eating something and that brings in a different experience. So,
And closing your eyes doesn't just facilitate your physical hearing. Because I hear sometimes things that aren't physically coming in, then
yes.
that also can be strengthened. Closing your eyes, you're more able to hear. And when I say hear, I don't necessarily, some people do hear, they're clairaudient and they do hear that way. And I
Hmm.
don't, what I hear is my own voice in my head.
Hmm.
So that is more easily discerned too, if
Hmm.
with your eyes closed.
Yeah. So the veil, the idea of the veil, and let's take all of the scammers out of this and the people who have not healthy options for it.
Right.
I think of that veil is it's, and as we've talked about before, we talked about it the last time I was here, and I've talked about it on my channel. when we pay attention to, for me, the wheel of the year, and when we shift our energy from one thing to another, that for me is a transition period. And in those transition periods are when the energy shifts, and maybe I tune in differently. Maybe the energy of that portal is different. And sometimes we sync up and sometimes we don't.
That's true.
So
A thought occurred to me too when you were just, sometimes I think that veil can represent the difference between the people who are sincere and honest in their spiritual pursuit and those that are not, those that are just trying to take advantage of people and for the profit. That veil, there's a veil there too. There's a veil separating, because there have been people who were sincere in their spiritual beliefs and pursuits who then like went over to the dark side and got tempted by the ability to use that for their own purposes and were lost. If they cross the veil in that way, the door isn't closed for them to come back, but I think that it would be very difficult for them to shed that aspect of what they're using their spirituality for and come back to something that's more organic and more honest. So I think that now, and it's just my brain working, that it's possible that it could be a good representation of a thing that once you cross it, it's difficult to get back. It's not impossible because, for instance, we have near-death experiences. So it's not impossible to come back from that plane in that sense. So the idea that you're using it for something that's not a good intention, it might be similar to that, to come back. I don't know if I'm making myself clear. It might be a similar thing to not be able to get back to something pure as easily as you crossed the first time.
Well, I would say, okay, if I'm hearing you correctly, once you go through, you can't come back if it's for not good reasons. Hi, Jackie Jacaranda.
Yeah,
is that what you're saying?
That's what I'm kind of, that it's in a metaphorical sense, someone who crosses the veil in a near-death experience, they can only come back if it wasn't meant for them to be there at that time.
Okay.
Or at least that's my perception of it.
Okay.
So let's see what Evangelina has to say. When you have the intention to be more connected with all there is, you can build bridges through nature gemstones. Exactly. You can build all those bridges. But if you cross those bridges for something that's not a pure intention, then I think that it's very difficult to come back. That
it could be. I think anytime you're doing work with portals or veils and you're purposefully going through instead of just using that portal as a way of communicating, instead of going through it to transport yourself somewhere, I think it's it's like you always need to, when you leave your house, if you lock your door when you leave, you need a key in order to open that
Get
door
that.
so you can
Yeah.
get back in.
Yes.
So I think it's related to that. I think anytime you're portaling, if I can call it that,
Okay.
you need to make sure that there's a safeguard and you have an exit strategy.
Yes. And to also know that you if you have good intentions and all your safeguards in place, you should be fine. That's that you aren't doing something in a haphazard way with no
Well, yeah.
knowledge. That
Hmm.
I think sometimes people get into trouble with that they aren't prepared.
I think people oftentimes get into trouble with it because they're not clear. They haven't thought about it long enough. And that's where learning happens.
Yes.
Yeah.
Motivation, absolutely. If your motivation is love or healing, if it's greed, it's untrue. Yes, and absolutely that it's tools, and
Yes.
the tools are helpful but not
Hmm.
necessary.
Yes. Well, and let's go back to that idea of the veil. The veil is a curtain. If you have curtains on your windows and you open them up, what do you see? You see
Everything.
clearly on what's the other side.
Yes.
And and you can open them up during the day, you can close them during the day. If you work overnight and you need to sleep, you close them. It keeps light out, or it lets light in, or it lets the darkness in. And
Yes.
and by darkness I mean things that are not always easy.
Yes.
And when we do it,
Yes.
we
The things in
oftentimes
the
do it on
shadow.
purpose. Yeah.
Yes. And if you have, I think most of us in the community around TarotTube are fairly well acquainted with our guides and the the ones that keep us safe. We
Hmm.
have most of us, at least, are we have our own safeguarding, protection, shielding rituals that we do, and
Hmm.
we know who we are dealing with.
Hmm.
Not everyone, but most of us know who are dealing with. So
Hmm.
if we have that much effort put in already and
Hmm.
we feel safe and we create a safe space, then I think we can be reasonably confident that whatever darkness or shadow comes in, that we would be able to deal with it.
Okay.
That anything that, and when I say I'm not talking about, what I'm talking about is our own shadows, our own. My guides help me reveal things I need to work on. So
Yes.
I get, and I feel like that's part of crossing the veil, is that conversation, that ongoing conversation of trying to work on ourselves, or at least in my case, me trying to work on myself. I have an ongoing conversation about bringing forward things that I need to work on. And I feel like that is the bulk of the darkness, is
Okay.
our shadow selves. That the
Hmm.
things that we're afraid of are things inside of ourselves.
Things that we don't
I'm,
recognize or they're hard to see, where they're
yes,
challenging.
yes. Optimistic seekers, yes.
Yeah.
And I think that it takes that attitude too, to be willing to jump off the cliff if that becomes necessary.
Yeah. Well, and let's be realistic. When we're learning things, we learn by trial and error often.
Yes.
What worked before, and then I like to think of slowing down enough to give myself the ability to think about what I did and think about why it didn't work the way I had intended, or how did it work? And what can I do with that
And
information? It's the ability to think.
and was it a happy accident? Even though it didn't turn out maybe the way we thought it would or should, maybe
Yeah,
even we weren't happy with it. But did it in the long run become something that was the right thing at that time,
of course.
that became what needed to happen?
Hmm. Yes.
That's
And that's
it's
part of the growth process, isn't I mean,
yeah.
that is part of the growth process. What have we done? Where do I want to go? Where did I go? And is that what I wanted, and how do we work with that? So,
And I wanted to highlight what Evangelina said here. We are made of light and shadows inside, indeed. That's why we are in this school called life.
mhm,
And Lisa, we all have free will,
absolutely.
and there's no wrong way.
Yeah,
There's
there are
no
some
wrong
ways
way to
that
do it,
are more efficient than others.
and some that are more difficult. But no choice
Yes.
is a is Lisa's saying we all make mistakes that we learn by, but is it really a mistake? If we learned from it, it may have been
Mm,
a choice that wasn't as advantageous as another choice could have been, but we learned from
mhm,
it, so it was
yes.
still valuable. Sherry says, I spent so much of my early years trying to please everyone around me and never understood why I never felt pleased with me. It took a long time to realize that I can't please others until I please
Mhm.
myself. That's true.
Yes. 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 And I like what you said. That is one way of looking at it. That everything, if I've learned from it, has been positive. Well, in the moment, it doesn't feel that way. And
Not so.
but I also think when we learn and grow, the, growth growth happens at the edge of comfortable. Uh, hang on.
Sip, sip.
Growth growth
Good thinking.
happens. Yeah, growth happens at that edge of being comfortable and uncomfortable. That's where growth
Yeah.
happens. And I know especially during the weirdness of 2020 and beyond, I what I thought I was learning, it ended up being something different than what I had expected, and it is what it is. So,
I
what do I do
had
with that?
a similar experience. I and I learned
I'm still here.
that oh, you put that up as your I like
I
that.
did. I do too.
That your new
Yeah.
picture made me lose my train of thought.
Oh, sorry. Doing something with the
That's
puppy.
okay. So I really did. I totally lost my train of
Oh
thought.
my
Not a
gosh.
clue what I'm
So
talking
no,
about.
but you were expressing about learning things.
Oh, learning. Yes. Oh, everything's a learning experience. I learned things during the pandemic that I had no idea that I needed to learn. And that it's better sometimes just to slow down and stop and see things and experience them instead of just going through everyday drudgery and not really taking the time to remember that there are birds outside or that the grass is green. That every day just getting up and doing the same thing every day, that's existing. That's not really living. I think we forgot how to live. And the pandemic made us stop and say, what are you doing with your life? Are you living or are you existing?
Yes. Saturn is involved somehow.
Saturn, if I'm being
asked to grow through obstacles. Yeah, great. Isn't that helpful? I don't want to grow through these obstacles. I don't want these obstacles. It's like, geez. Well, it's like, for me, one of the big things that I learned through the pandemic has been I can actually be by myself and be okay.
See, and that is, you come from a very large family, and that, I imagine, was a revelation to you. I come from, there were only two of us, and I spent my entire childhood kind of isolated. So I was fairly comfortable during the pandemic. It didn't bother me the way it did some people. And of course, I did miss interacting with people, but I learned how to do that as a young person, how to live in isolation and still be okay.
Yeah. Well, and I think the idea of obstacles, they're obstacles, lessons, opportunities, whatever you want to call them, you can put a different spin on it.
Yes.
And it's like the word, the veil, it's a construct that we use to explain something that's difficult to explain. It's also a way to adjust our perspective to, okay, what am I learning about this? How am I showing up at the page? So.
And do you think it limits us at all, the term, the veil? Do you think it limits us in any way as far as our perception? Or do you think that as we grow spiritually, then we almost overcome the limitations of the term?
I think that a term like the veil, to me, feels like it will expand as my understanding of it expands.
I think that's an excellent description.
So
because
it's not go ahead.
It's not a fixed thing like a wall. So it can expand more easily than something that is rigid.
Yes. And yes, because the more I understand things and the more I evolve, the more opportunities I have to understand what I'm experiencing.
Yes.
If so, the more language I have, the more words I have, the more opportunity I have to explain how I'm feeling and what I'm experiencing. When I only have five words for feelings, then I only have five feelings that I am able to express, but I experience them. It's not quite right. That's not quite right. So as I grow, it gives me that ability to have more information.
One of the things I love about paganism is not dogmatic, it's expansive. I agree.
Yep.
When you were talking about that, I got a picture of Harry Potter and Hermione telling Ron that he had the emotional maturity of a teaspoon. So yes, hopefully we've grown past that stage. But it does. We don't just grow one way. So as we grow spiritually, we're going to grow emotionally. We're going to grow. Hi, Kiba. Kiba's here.
Hi, Kiba.
We're going to grow in many ways, and that informs, I think, our spiritual growth too. So
That's what I want to have happen. I want to grow in an expansive way that gives me the ability to experience the worlds that I interact with more completely. And I'm okay with there being things that I don't understand.
mm-hmm.
I don't
Me
always
too.
like it, but yeah, I think that's really that's, for me, that's what growth is.
Well, and it's okay not to like it, because otherwise we wouldn't have any reason to want to grow more. Is
Mm-hmm.
if we were content with everything, then it wouldn't serve us in any way as far as growth. I think that kind of relates to the veil too, is that since it's not rigid and it is flexible and expansive,
Mm-hmm.
and we can't see clearly maybe a thing that we're trying to see, well, that's some impetus for us to go forward and try to bring it into focus better. Try to maybe adjust the veil so we can see it. And in that way, I'm talking about maybe trying to develop abilities we found that we have, or
Mm-hmm.
Different aspects of spirituality that we might be interested in learning, or
Sure.
different spiritual paths we might be interested in learning. I think that the veil can be a term to tie all those things loosely together, so that as we explore, it continues to expand.
Yes.
Would you say if we choose to grow, it's intellectual air growth, but if growth is thrust upon us through challenge, it's emotional cups? Would you relate different kinds of growth to different elements or aspects of tarot?
Yes, and I think if it captures my attention, then it would be air, and I get intellectual about it. I also believe, Beth, I need to take him through all of the elements to really deepen my understanding.
I was thinking that too, because the fire of the wands can really be related to growing, but we need to be grounded. We need those pentacles. We need to have our feet on the ground.
Well, yeah, and then I need to, okay, so if I'm learning something, hi Andrea, if I'm learning something, then I need to be able to incorporate it into my daily work, which is very much a pentacles or an earth type of thing.
Mm-hmm.
I need to be inspired by it, which is very much a fire. And I need to be emotionally invested in it. I think for me, back to Beth's question, it depends upon the type of the type of growth that I have an opportunity to apply, and what's the entry, um what's my approach to it. Okay, one is through choice, the other happens to us, different types of growth. Yes, is
Yes.
what you said.
And I
Yeah.
think too that even if something is challenging us, it's still a choice. What we choose to do with it. If we choose to grow through the situation, or if we're stubborn and we're not going to change no matter what, that's still a choice, I think. I think that we may not feel like we have a choice, but I think we do ultimately always have a choice.
And a lot of times that choice is easier seen after the initial growth has started. One is through choice, the other happens to us, different types of
To
growth.
us.
Yes, yes. I think okay, let's see if I can go ahead.
I was going to say it's like the difference between deciding to take a course at a college or being forced to go to night school because we got pulled over for speeding and now we have to go to traffic school.
Mm-hmm.
So it would be kind of like that would be one would be our choice because we did it freely, and one we were expected to do because it came up through
Yes.
circumstances.
Yeah. And I think a lot of times, I agree, different types of growth, and how quickly can I transition from that wand energy, that fire, oh God, this is happening to me. How quickly can I incorporate those other elemental aspects, those other approaches to understanding it? So
And a lot of it
that
has
can
to
be a
do with
challenge. Yeah.
our ability to accept what a challenge is instead of fighting against it. I think I'm trying to. Lisa's saying, here's that. Yes. Lisa says she's finding it hard to keep putting on a smile and turning the other cheek. Spent whole life doing that.
Mm-hmm.
That we have boundaries, but it was like that her choice never meant anything. That it's hard transitioning to now. This is for entertainment purposes only.
Oh yeah.
To tell you that a lot of times our attitude toward whatever it is makes all the difference. That
Mm-hmm.
it's not like something we can turn on and turn off. If we try to see something as more of an adventure and a challenge than something that was meant to hurt us or oppress us or keep us down, and try to change our viewpoint of what the challenge is. I
Lisa,
know.
yeah,
It's
it's like I understand. Yeah,
but
yeah.
it's not, yeah, it's not something you can fix automatically, and you know that it's something you have to work on,
Mm-hmm.
and it's hard. It's hard to take something that we've always felt like was oppressing us and try to see it as something to work through and have an adventure.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Learning to grow into my authentic skin, Andrea says, and I'm relieved of false emotions. Choice with what I do with the emotions. Emotional life is earth, journey, spirit, journey of spirit. I choose to share emotions.
Mm-hmm.
And then she went on to say, I invite guides to participate in emotions, and they in turn provide spiritual balance. Beautiful symbolic relationship. And Andrea also is a shaman. So she has done a lot of work in this area.
Yes.
It's
Processing is
process.
difficult. Well, and
Absolutely.
I think just with anything is we talk about, I know if Gertrude is still here, her working with her guides and trusting and being comfortable with doing what is suggested that she work on.
Yeah.
I think it's those things that as humans, I'm not going to get up in the morning and run a marathon. Instead, I'm going to get up in the morning, I'm going to get out of bed, maybe without making old people noises. I'm going to put shoes on. And so it's a process. So I really like that idea of inviting gods, deity, guides, whatever we want to, however we want to refer to it, invite them into the daily
Yes.
living and appreciate it. It betters communications. It betters
And
understanding and the language.
take those things that are like our morning rituals and trying to get out of bed without making the old people noises, or doing the mundane everyday things. What I do is I try to celebrate those.
Mm-hmm.
If I opened my eyes this morning, then it's a privilege to get out of bed, even if it hurts.
Mm-hmm.
It's trying to sweep the floor and with the kitty litter and stuff when my back hurts so bad I can't walk. That
Yes.
kind of thing. Being grateful for being able to even just get up is, I think that that's a lot of being grateful is a good place to start.
Yes, and being grateful is a good starting point. But if you don't use that gratitude to move to that next level, then it's not really working. The deepening relationship
Yes.
of spirit and earth is unveiling the ascension shift. Yes. And
And then,
I got this from, I was on April Tarot and Witchery yesterday's channel with Ben
yes.
from Beneficial
Uh-huh.
Tarot. And we were doing the tarot quest, and it was about gratitude. And one of the
Mhm.
things that she has on her wall or on her bathroom wall is gratitude turns what we have into enough.
Yes.
Gratitude turns what we have into enough.
Into enough.
Because when we have enough, then we're willing to do something else. Yeah, Beth, I wrote it down. And so it's a great framing. And
Um,
it's like, okay, I have enough. I've done this, and now I can do more because I have enough. I can do it. Okay, you've got great comments.
Circumstances in Lisa's life, over 50 years of abuse from her siblings. Um, her word, her life meant nothing. Caretaker to them all, and she's the youngest of 7 children. So it's sounds like it's a lifetime of shadow to work through. And I'm surprised you're only seeing a therapist twice a month, really. with
Good for
that
you,
amount
Lisa.
to work on.
Yeah.
That's
That right there says a lot about Lisa
that
and
she is,
the value that Lisa is putting onto herself. And I applaud that,
yes, and
Lisa. I mean,
finding
congratulations.
her value, and but that is, yes, I think that gratitude is a good place to start, even with that, even having a lifetime of sadness heaped on her.
Yeah.
That just being grateful for having had the experience to learn from that. And it doesn't feel like it's a good thing no, I understand that it feels terrible. But what you are doing is coming to the place where you can.
Yeah, you're welcome, Lisa. And Debbie Aquarius Owl is
Yes.
work looking. I'm not telling
Yes,
the boss
she is.
nothing.
I didn't tell the boss anything. I don't know your boss, Debbie.
I don't know your boss either, but I'll bring your boss a cup of coffee to distract
Yeah.
them.
I have some in the kitchen.
So.
But Lisa, you are doing the work. You're doing the work. I know it feels like it's never ending, but it will end. You will get to the end of it, and it sounds like you're well on your way to being okay.
Well, and I think it's a process. It's like the veil. As we grow and exchange and expand, so does our opportunities for growth and understanding. It allows us to deepen it. It allows us to broaden, and it gives us more power to address things. Because what for me 5 years ago really slowed me down for a week only slows me down for 5 days instead of 7 days.
Right.
So,
and Andrea said, eliminate elder noises. That's like eliminating voice. It's like eliminating the roadmap of our scars.
mm-hmm.
So, and Andrea's offering Lisa a look into soul retrieval.
Okay.
And we repeat negative patterns until we have enough awareness to break the karma. Yes. If we didn't learn the lesson, we're going to repeat it until we learn the lesson.
And we're going to I believe the lesson repeats itself. It echoes the other one. It sort of changes. It's not the exact same thing. It's something similar. So
yes. So we didn't completely not learn anything, so that the next time when it repeats, it tailors itself.
Oh, I am totally going to say, Debbie, there's sometimes when I have not learned a dang thing, and I have to show up, and I'm given the opportunity to learn again and again and again. It's like,
as am I. As I mentioned in my most recent video, I've thought I learned patience many times over. Thought I learned patience, but no. There's always something new to learn.
There is always something new to learn, and I need to remember that I'm learning some new things. I do feel I finally have a voice. Yes.
Yes.
And I'm glad your voice is here, Lisa.
Yes.
I
and
think
she
that's
says,
one
I
of the...
am myself. You are.
Yes. Yes.
You are. Not only are you yourself, you're important to us, to our community.
I am a firm believer. There are so many voices out there, and people need to hear them.
Yes.
And people need to show up, and they need to say what they need to say. And they need to say it in an honest and authentic way. And when they do that, many of us, when we need that authentic message, find it. That's the chaos. And it shows up. And so I'm glad people are showing up. I don't know if I've ever had any opportunity to have an impact on someone. I don't know that. I can't be guaranteed that. I hope it's part of the reason I show up. But I may never know the impact that I've had on somebody. And you know what? I'm okay with that.
I am too. I am okay knowing that somebody needed to hear whatever was said. Mm-hmm. And I'm okay if they didn't tell me that they needed to hear it. And I'm okay with knowing that we touch many more people than we ever know.
Yes. I believe in that. And if that's not true, I don't care, because that's what I believe in and that's what I want to believe in, and you can't stop me.
Oh, well, that brings us right back to the veil. So if we decide for ourselves that the veil is real, then it's real.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's what we chose to use as our divider in between this plane and the spiritual plane.
Yes.
Hi, Allie.
Hey, Allie.
Oh, Running has been lurking.
Hi, Running.
Nice to have you with us. Whoops, I missed. Because I show up to those groups because of the conversations and knowledge. And I show up too. I don't always tell you I'm in the chat.
Yeah. And that's okay.
And sometimes I don't, I miss it live and then I watch it later.
Yeah. Well, and that's something for me, and I know this about me, Deb, is I really like learning and listening and encouraging people who are in a different place than me, because I am energized by their excitement and their passion about what they're
Yes.
learning. I really like that. I get so charged about that. And we've had conversations, and I hear something that somebody says, and I'm like, oh, that's really good. I hadn't thought about it that way. And I encourage people to, let me tell you, my high priestess said at one point, go take those beginning classes again, the basic classes,
Yes.
because when you go back and you rewatch them with the experience and the knowledge that you've gained since then, it gives you a deeper or a different understanding of what's being shared. It's so cool. Yes.
I do that a lot. I've got, well, I have your whole series I have bookmarked on your Tarot the Stash Way. I have bookmarked because it's, you look at things from a different perspective than I do. So it informs everything that I hear and see and learn. It informs what then I pass on.
Yes.
And how I'm able to bring whatever that was into, for instance, a reading, to bring it forward. And then I have more tools at my fingertips to bring forward whatever feels like it needs to be said.
Yeah. Bye, Lisa. You're welcome.
Have a good appointment, and
yes,
and we'll see you later. Keep us updated.
And Running Away from Home said, we all touch each other's lives, whether we know it or not. Maybe it's is that Schroeder's cat
Schrodinger's
thing?
Cat.
So.
It's we do. And, or even like a butterfly effect kind of thing. We never, the wings of a butterfly can affect, the ripple can affect time and space. And so if a butterfly is that powerful, how powerful are our actions and words?
Yeah.
The magic of raising each other's vibrations, she says, always astounds me. And I think that goes to the veil too, that we can help raise our own vibrations by trying to meet the vibrations of someone across the veil, because they have to lower theirs and we have to raise ours to be able to come together.
Isn't it interesting? I also think that my energy impacts someone else. So if I am in a good mood, then I might be able to adjust somebody else's energy. And if I'm in a negative mood, then that impacts the others. I think if you've ever been in a social gathering and you meet someone and their energy is doesn't match yours and it may
Mm.
feel lower, it lowers my energy. And I think
It
this is
does
this
mine too.
wonderful thing. It's just like I need to pay attention because I am a firm believer that what I put out, I attract.
And also, well, for instance, I have stayed away from a lot of the coverage of what's been going on with our electoral
Hmm.
system, and because it lowers my vibration
Hmm.
just to sit and watch that. So I have stayed away from most of it, and I've been getting my updates just in passing from
Yes.
other ones around, because I want to keep my vibrations high enough to be able to raise someone else's. I don't I don't think it's productive that if
Hmm.
I know I'm going to have my vibrations lowered, that for me to indulge in that kind of thing.
So it's not productive for you because
Right.
other people, it could be that they need to have their vibrations adjusted by overwhelming them with something that they wouldn't normally take, and then they
Yeah.
boomerang back or they use it as a spring forward.
Yes.
So,
So that's just my personal thing, and there is no wrong way to do any of this for
mhm.
entertainment purposes
I'm
only.
like good for entertainment purposes only. Yeah.
Um, we don't know that we've affected someone's life because we're not meant to know at that
Hmm.
time. I think that's
Yes.
true.
Hmm.
We love you too, Running.
Yay.
Um, she said, I
There you
thought
go.
so little of myself, I couldn't imagine that I affected anyone. And
Boom.
we never know who we're affecting. We never
Yeah.
know. Um, Andrea's had
Yeah.
students come find her 30 years later. Absolutely. You never know
Hmm.
what kind of impact you're going to have. Angela's here.
Hi,
Hi,
Angela.
Angela.
Cartomancy Mesquite.
Um, oh, I'm glad you're very entertained.
Yes. Yes.
That's our aim here, really, is to
That's
be
right.
entertaining.
Hmm.
Entertaining and hopefully informative. The importance
There
of
you go.
watching chat energies. Yes.
Yes.
Okay, everybody's saying hi.
And I think
So,
as we go back to that idea of the veil and we
mhm,
grow and evolve, I think the opportunity to interact with the veil or not grows and expands as well. So I think that's an important thing because if I go into a room as a 6 year old, I'm going to notice certain things. If I go into that
mhm,
same room as a 56 year old, I'm going to experience different things. One is not better than the other, they just are
mhm.
things. What we do with it is
and
what matters.
and it's we're what our level of comprehension at that time, or our level of
Yeah.
emotional understanding, or wherever we are on our path, it's appropriate for that time,
Hmm.
so that we may come back, as you said, to the same thing much later and have a different lesson, see a different thing be impacted in a different way.
Yeah. Well, it's like, what is it, Angela, who said, I never knew the impact of what I had on a student 30 years ago.
Yes.
So.
And then they come and that reminds me of a Twilight Zone episode where the teacher didn't think that he had taught anything in his life. He was being forced to retire.
Mm-hmm.
But he was shown that he impacted every student that walked through his door.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Here it is. Running away said, I'm not better than anyone else, but I'm not worse either. And that's exactly right.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly right. We teach each other what we need to learn as well. That's true too.
Yes. And I actually think that's a great way of really enforcing your learning. If you've learned something new, a great way to really embed it into you is to teach it to someone else. So.
Yes. So, and Beth says, I wrote a sympathy note to a former neighbor I hadn't seen for 20 years. I remembered so many thoughtful things she did and memories of her family. She was able to hear that. So it's nice. It's nice when we can give back to, when we can let someone know
mm-hmm.
what they did for us. Just reading about the ascension, how veil concept is shifting, not thinning, rather than access to, for both energy worlds become accessible. So, and I have been thinking about that too, about whether or not the veil is actually thinning, or it's just our ability to perceive what's on the other side may be shifting, and the ability of the beings on the other side to come to a place where we can meet with them.
Yeah, I think it's there's lots of terminology differences, and so
Yes.
that sometimes it's a great thing to say, well, what do you mean by thinning? And you may say it's easier to see through it. I may say my energy is adjusted so it doesn't interfere as much. I think those are key moments. What I mean by thinning is a different take on the same thing.
Exactly. And it doesn't have to be just at one time. I think that we're more focused on things eternal at specific times of the year. In the fall and in the spring, we are more focused. And that's why we feel like it's thinner at that time, only because it's our attention has been turned.
Yes, our energies are shifting inward rather than being outward.
Exactly. So I think you're exactly right. The terminology may differ, but we're coming to the same sort of conclusion.
Mm-hmm.
Andrea says, I've enjoyed theatrics, so of course I co-create holy cow moments.
I've never created theatrical moments.
I know you haven't. You're so
Gerald,
serious.
Never. I'm so serious. Yes.
It's funnier when you try to be serious than it is when you.
Yeah. Well, and I think it's one of those things that when we can shift our energy quickly, like with laughter, I think it gives us an opportunity to remember those moments. And that's where we remember the moments that have a lot of emotion around them. So it could be a moment. Oh, look, it's Monkey.
My monkey wants to be up here on camera. He is.
Monkey.
He's a camera. He's a kitty light. But Andrea says it evokes for me moments that I experienced in pajama parties when spirit would show up and play with us girls.
And force everybody to giggle and do stupid stuff. And how many marshmallows can you shove in your mouth and all of that sort of thing.
All the silly stuff, yes. And I think that we are closer to spirit when we do those things, when we allow the silly as part of the creativity.
I agree. Yeah, I definitely agree.
Beth says that always happened when we channeled the Fae.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah.
Let's see. Evangelina has said, tomorrow will be a tremendous portal, 11/11, to take advantage to empower ourselves. Yeah.
Love that.
So I am going to tell Monkey he needs to get down. So,
Monkey.
I know. He's a real climber.
It's all good. It's all good.
It is. So I think that this has been a very interesting discussion we've had about the veil, and we solved no problems, but we came to the conclusion that it's up to each one of us what
to
it
show up
is,
and
and what it means. And I want to thank you for being with us today.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me.
Very kissing on Monkey's ears. I do that fairly often. I was saying, yes, I appreciate you coming today. And I'm a little bit out of practice because I've been sick and had things going on, but
you did fine from my perspective.
I think we still had a productive discussion, and I appreciate everyone who came and
thank you,
participated in our conversation. We love you, or I guess I'll speak for myself. I love you.
I appreciate everybody being here. This is wonderful. Thanks for being such a
Gerald,
good host.
Oh, thank you. What do you have coming up? Do you have any place to be?
Well, I have on Monday, I'm doing readings, Monday the 14th, and I am having Lisa from Zena's Place Intuitive Card Readings and Jane the Seeker on. And then Monday evening, I am with on Monday evening, I am with Sheila for readings. And everybody like and subscribe to my channel because I'll post those. Tuesday
at some point, I'm going to have Gerald back, and we're actually going to do readings.
Oh, if you want me to, I'd be glad to come back. Well, and you're coming on my channel. You're coming on my channel on the 28th, and we're doing readings with Kelly from Dozen Cats.
With Kelly, yes, we are.
Yes,
we are.
Tuesdays is back and forth with Jamie and Gerald, and Julie Kusha Watts and Peter J. Watts are asking the questions
this week. And at some point, I believe in January, I may be making an appearance for that.
Well, you are doing that on December 20th.
On December 20th, okay.
Yes, I hope. I got you marked in my calendar. It's a Tuesday.
As December, okay, because I had it marked for January, but December is fine.
Okay. So, yeah, and it's been great. I've got lots of good things coming up. So fun.
Very good. So watch Gerald's space. Make sure and like and subscribe to Gerald's channel. Hit that notification bell so you know whenever he's having a must-see live stream.
So, yeah, a must-see live.
Yes.
Oh, my goodness.
Like must-see TV.
Yes. And what are you planning? What are you planning on your channel?
I have Well, I'm going to be doing readings with you in a couple of weeks. I don't have anything scheduled right now because I'm working around some things, but I have started a new series with Dream Detective Kate where we have kitchen table chat, like
Okay.
everyone did forever until the new age came and people didn't sit and visit with families as much as we used
Yeah.
to. So we're having a kitchen table talk. Probably not this week, but we'll probably have one next week on Friday morning.
Mm-hmm.
And then if you stay tuned to my channel, I may have a live stream coming up or a new story to tell. So
Good. Yeah. So beautiful.
so
Thank you.
well, thank you for coming. Thank
Yeah.
everyone in chat for coming and participating. And
Mm.
until next time, beautiful beings.